have a powerful conversation today. All right, we're going to talk about prayer, and I'm just kind of curious. When you think about the different spiritual practices, what are some of the spiritual practices that are important to you? What do you use? What do you apply to your life most? What type of spiritual practices work for you? Anybody?
Breath prayer,
Breath prayer,
chanting,
chanting, okay. Meditation,
nature.
nature, okay. All right, excellent. So today, like I mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about affirmative prayer. So this is a conversation that's a little bit different than maybe you've heard before. When I think about prayer, here, let me back up. I'll tell you how I used to think about prayer. I call them Santa prayers. And it's, dear God, please give me, right? And so let me like really just kind of lay what a Santa prayer looks like. So a Santa prayer is a prayer where there is something out there. Maybe it's an old guy with a white beard and a big stick that you've got to reach to, right? And if you say the right thing in the right order and the right time of day, and he's not mad at you, then you'll get it. Right? Maybe. Right? Or maybe not, right? So that was the way that I learned how to pray, right? And God bless my parents. That was how they, learned how to pray. And of course, there are, iterations on that. There's lots of ways to do Santa prayers. But we're not going to talk about Santa prayers today. Okay? What we're going to talk about is a perfect spiritual technology that operates on a series of laws that you can have absolute confidence and absolute certainty that work 100% of the time. Okay? That's what we're going to be talking about today. How many of you guys are familiar with yoga? Any of you guys? Okay. So anybody been to a yoga class lately? Right? Lots of fun. Okay, so yoga is this wonderful spiritual technology for the body. Prayer, affirmative prayer, is this amazing spiritual technology for the mind. Okay? And so here's the thing. What we might not realize is that we're always praying. Prayer is everything that you say, it's everything that you think, it's everything that you do. And more often than not, we're unconscious that we're praying. So if you ever want to become enlightened about what you're praying for, just look at your life. It'll tell you exactly what you're praying for. Look at your relationships, look at your bank account, look at the person lying next to you in the bed, right? That's exactly what we're praying for, right? And you know what? That can be an amazing thing, because used properly, this technology can shift all of that. So what I like to say is prayer changes how you see things, so the things that you see change. Right? It's not outward reaching. You're not, begging Santa God for something. You're going within, and there are some steps that we can apply to make sure that happens effortlessly and easily and powerfully for you. Okay? So one of the things that we want to highlight here as I move into this is a principle that has really opened my eyes as it relates to spirituality. It's a very simple principle, and the principle is this: it is done unto you as you believe. Very simple principle. It is done unto you as you believe. You might have read that in a book somewhere. Okay? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And like I said, we're constantly applying this. Okay? So here's the thing. What is it that you believe? What is it that you believe? Okay? And typically, when we think about what we believe, it comes from, where is this house? This is house in our mind, right? Not our brain, our mind. We'll talk about the distinction between the two here in a second. And that comes from the mass mind. What is the mass mind? It's everything that you've been exposed to, everything that you've been educated into, everything that You saw in the media before you got here, right? So this is the mass mind. And typically what we say is that we pray a lot of times, or even when we think, we're thinking from the mass mind, which really isn't new thought. There's nothing new here. It's all old, repetitive stuff. No new possibilities. It's just a mass mind. Okay? And then, of course, because of the way the law works, which we'll talk about in a second, because our focus is here, what shows up in form? It's whatever's here. So let's take, for example, the mass mind says by the time you're 65, 75, whatever age it is, you're old and you start breaking down. We buy into this and we believe it. And then, of course, you get it. Right? Well, what if you were in a different conversation? What if the conversation was, I'm whole, perfect, and complete, and my body doesn't have to break down until I am prepared to remove myself from it. Okay? That's a different conversation. This mass mind, this is all about agreement, societal agreement. What we're going to talk about today is this: spirit, universal thought, cause. Okay? The place of infinite possibility. And here's the thing. What's happened, typically when we think about our religious traditions, so I'm going to put a couple of things here, and you guys might like this. So religion, we'll put, here's a fun one, a science, right? Because that's a belief system too, believe it or not. Here, we'll put superstition, right? And we'll even put philosophy for some laws, right? So what's interesting about this is these are the spaces where we typically go to understand this: spirit, infinite possibility, infinite creativity, abundance. So what we do is we look here, or maybe we make up our own philosophy and we try to understand this. And the best we can do is maybe get like a little corner of it. Right? Maybe we get a little corner of it. And so we're still curious, okay, if I'm here, why is it that I'm having such a difficult time accessing this? Right? And let me just be clear here. So when I talk about spirit, when I talk about universal thought, I'm not talking about anything outside of you. I'm talking about everything that you are. Every breath that you take, every thought that you have, the force back of all forces that causes you to be, this is universal thought. Okay? We're like fish, we're swimming in it. We don't even know it. Okay? So these are great tools, but the best they can do is operate as a map for us. That is the best that these tools can do. But when you get silent and you go inside, what you get the opportunity to do is to access this spiritual aspect of who you are. Okay? So when we pray, we're going to be praying from this. Now check this out. Imagine if your entire being, every word that you said came from this. Right? And I love to call this the truth. The wholeness, the perfection, the infinite possibility that we are. When I reference truth, this is what I'm talking about. So these are words that are coming from the infinite. And all of you are expressing that in some way. You're expressing it this very moment. The only question is, how aware are you? Or is it of it that you are? Did I say that right? How? Are you aware of it? That's the question, right? And the more aware you are of this truth, of your essence, the more and more and more things begin to merge. And what starts to happen is the mind becomes aligned with truth. The body becomes aligned with truth. right? And you experience this oneness that we all say that we're seeking, but no one seems to find. It's in your very breath. Okay? So it's important to touch on this because understanding prayer, we want to have, and again, this is a model, right? So this is just one idea. This is the best we can do. This is a map. It's not the terrain. Okay? So here's another thing. Another diagram. This comes from this diagram. It's typically known as a science of mind creation model. Okay, didn't come from Ernest Holmes, the founder of the science of mind, but he used it. I think it came from India somewhere. Similar model, but it's very important to understand this when we talk about affirmative prayer. Spirit, mind, body, right? Okay, so how does form come into form? It's this simple method right here. Everything that's created follows a diagram like this, similar to this. And the way that it works is there's a thought that's held within the mind of the infinite, right? And everything that exists here. Everything that you see in this room, every piece of clothes that you're wearing, it started here, and the mind of the infinite. And then what happens is this idea moves into what we call the law or the mind. And the way I like to think about the law is I like to think about it like soil, right? So the soil has this intelligence whereby if you plant a seed in the soil, it will germinate, it will take root, and it will grow. If you plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree, right? The soil doesn't determine what the growth will be. The only intelligence that it has is to make that seed grow, right? So we pull this thought out of the infinite, we pull it into the law, right? And the law is, what do we say? It is done unto you as you believe. What's interesting about this is in this area of mind or the law is, again, it's the same stuff here. It's mass mind, right? All the general ideas that exist. And then, of course, that comes in the form. Now, check this out. So it happens like this, right? It goes into form. Now, check this out. What's interesting about this is when that thought comes into form, we get an experience with it. We say we like it. We say we don't like it. We say it's good. We say it's bad. We give it all kinds of names. We say it's evil. We say it's God, right? We make up lots of stuff, right? And then, what's so amazing about this, based on what you believe, based on your thought, based on your judgment, judge not lest you be judged, based on your judgment, what starts to happen is this moves right back here, right? You start this process all over again. So this comes into form, you make a judgment about it. That judgment brings that thought and that judgment into spirit, mind, and body. Really, really critical. So when we start talking about the 5 steps of prayer, what you're going to find is that you don't have to believe, you don't have to have faith, you simply need to understand the law. And the law works perfectly. So we understand the law of gravity, and we know there are some rules associated with gravity. And if we break those rules, we're going to be at the effect of those rules. Okay? This is no different. No different. So maybe a different way to put this is, let me give you an example. A perfect example. Okay? So a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my wife, and I shared with her, I said, it is time for me to get away. I need some time away so that I can write, so that I can create. And she says, well, you've already been writing, you've already been creating, you've got a time away here. I go to work every day. What's going on here? And I said, yeah, that's right. I said, and I need a different space because there are lots of things that are unfolding for me. Well, this is my intention. I understand the law. This is the principle, right? So I pull this idea out of spirit, this idea of being away. I get an email message from an organization who I spoke for about 5 years ago, and they said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming down to Argentina and speaking for us again?" You see that? Okay. So this was the thought, spirit or thought. I pull this down, right? It's in my mind, it's in my subconscious. And what does the subconscious do? It causes it to grow, and it comes into form. Clear? Excellent. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So I lost the word form and then judgment. What happens after the judgment?
Excellent question. Thank you. Right. So here's the thing. So we look at this, right? We look at this thing, this experience, and we have a judgment, right? So what is the judgment? Let's say we say that this is bad. This is bad. I'm resisting it. I don't want it in my life. Whatever this is. And what happens is it's done into you as you believe. So you know what? While this is neutral, it's just become bad because you've decided that it was bad. And whatever you are afraid of as associated with that bad thing, well, now you bring that into the process. Does that make sense? Okay? So you say it's good. So I have a friend, he has this saying, I love it. The better it gets, the better it gets. That's his saying. I love it. And so I say that all the time. I see something, I say, great. The better it gets, the better it gets. Right? And sure enough, it just keeps getting better. Because it's done unto me as I believe. My definition about this thing is my law. As you can see here, this is the same makeup of you and I, right? We're spirit, mind, and body, right? If you're ever curious about what is the spirit nature of you, have you ever looked in the mirror and you said, wow, I look great? Well, that wasn't your spirit. That was here. That was your mind. The spirit is the part of you that gives you the ability to be conscious enough for the mind to say that. So it is the force back of all forces. Okay? It's that essence within us that animates us, that gives us life, that gives us consciousness, causes us to be awake. That is the spirit. And each of you have had a brush with it because it's you. And it's beautiful. You ever sit silently and you feel this calmness? What is this calmness? What is this sensation? What is feeling this sensation? That's what we're talking about. Okay? A couple of other important ideas. All is one. As you can see this, spirit, mind, and body, we're all one. Right? Even though we have these meat suits, we're not separate from all of life. We think that we are, we're not. Okay? So there's all of life. We're one with all of life. We're swimming in life. And our intentions, going back to your question, influence how life shows up for us. Okay, so this brings us into the 5 steps of affirmative prayer. Okay? And remember, you don't have to believe. You don't have to have faith. You simply need to understand the law and be willing to apply it. Recognition. What is recognition? So recognition is simply acknowledging that God, source, spirit, the universe, pick a word, is all there is. God is all there is. And so in your prayer, this is the first thing that we're doing. We're recognizing that God is all there is. Right? So unlike Santa prayers where they start with "give me," we're recognizing. Okay, so we're recognizing God is all there is. Okay. And if this universal divine intelligent force, if that is all there is, there can be no opposite to it. Get that? And I'm just going to just leave that right there. There's only one force, one life. That life is good. That life is your life. It is good. You seek good in everything. You only make a movement because you believe that it's good. Okay? So that's the first step. Here in the recognition step, we're saying God is all there is. I'm experiencing it in this very moment. It's in the trees. It's in the air in this room. And I am one with it. That's the unification step. I'm one with it. Right? And here's the thing. Ideally, you guys will have an opportunity to write these prayers, right? It will change your life, right? Writing prayers will change your life. Okay? So as you write this initially and get to a point where you're comfortable speaking it, what you begin to see is that these two steps, the recognition and the unification, this is actually a meditation. It's a meditation on the truth. And keep in mind, as we're doing this, what's happening is the truth is influencing the mind. So that the mind is actually in harmony and in alignment with the truth. Okay? So this is the meditation. So in the realization step, what we're realizing is that we're acknowledging the truth about whatever it is that has brought us to this prayer. Okay? So say, for example, I'll give another fun one. Say, for example, you desire more harmony in your relationship. So you would say, here, I know that my relationship is harmonious right now. Because here, that's the truth. All is one, right? So it is harmonious. But if for whatever reason that is difficult for you, you may want to say, because you've been looking at the results over here, you've been looking at the form and this, and they won't quit, and they, right? If this is where your mind is, maybe you want to say something, what I call a bridge statement, where you're saying, I know that new life and harmony is emerging in my relationship right now. It is unfolding in my relationship right now. That might be easier for you. So in the Thanksgiving, thank you, right? And keep in mind, as you're writing this, as you're praying this, you're feeling it. You're feeling good, right? So in the example that I gave earlier, hey, I think I need to get away. I was really feeling that, right? So thought plus feeling creates form. And then finally, the last step is release. Okay? So in this step, what you're saying is, yeah, I've said all this stuff. I'm thankful for it, and I let it go. I don't need to come back in 5 minutes. I don't need to, ring up Santa God again. It's done. And at the top of the paper that you guys have, there's a quote. It comes from the book of Job. There are probably lots of other quotes, but I just love that quote, and so I put it there. Right? You shall decree a thing, it shall be established, and light will shine upon your ways. To decree, to order. So, for example, I was an officer in the military. And when I would give an order, when I would decree a thing, I knew that it was going to be done. And so I would just say, thank you for, hey, you know what? I'd like for you to move these boxes from here to here. And, yes, sir, got it. Thank you. Why? He hadn't moved the boxes yet, but I knew it was done. This is the same way we approach the law. Because the law is the law is the law. It doesn't change. It's consistent, and you can count on it. And here's the thing. Try this and see what shows up for you. Don't believe me. I don't want you to believe me. I don't want you to have faith in what I'm saying. What I want you to do is I want you to practice this and watch what shows up for you. Okay? So these are the 5 steps. And it's important when you're writing this, which you guys will have a chance to do, is that you speak affirmatively, right? So I know that, not I want, or I hope that, or I wish that. It would be nice if. No, I know that. Harmony is expressed in every area of my life. I know that I am whole, perfect, complete right now. I know that every cell in my body is exploding with life, and it feels good. I am vibrant. I am energetic in this moment. Right? So you want to speak affirmatively, and you want to speak in the first person. Okay? Anyone want to be a volunteer? We'll walk through the steps. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. So we are going to do an affirmative prayer for you. Okay. So, what is the intention of this prayer?
Healing.
Okay. All right, you guys ready for this?
Yes.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Healing. Okay. So, what is the truth? We are whole and complete. So, when it comes to healing, there really is no healing. There is simply knowing the truth that we're whole, healthy, complete, well. Yes. All right. So maybe the way that we want to say it is knowing wellness. Right? Okay. And I love the fact that you just started with that. You didn't give me a story, right? You didn't do a song and dance. It's just what it is. I like to know, I like to experience wholeness, fullness of life. Okay? Beautiful. Okay? So, and the recognition step. So what might you say? What might you know in the recognition step as it relates to the fullness of all creation, as it relates to the wholeness and the vibrancy and the aliveness as it relates to the thought of creation? What might you say about it?
Like God is all there is.
Okay. This is a thought. This is an idea. Okay. If this word doesn't work for you, use what works. Okay. It's the intention that's important. Okay. God is all there is. Okay. And what might you say as it relates to your connection, this unification of all there is?
I am one with God.
There you go. And then realization, this is, again, the intention, right? And so the realization is, see, here's the thing. We're not trying to change what the only thing that we're doing is we're shifting our thought. That's the only thing that we're doing. Okay, prayer is for us. Prayer is not for God out there somewhere. It's for us to shift our thoughts to be back in alignment with what's true. Okay? Okay?
Before you go on Thanksgiving, question.
Yes.
Under realization, would you say it is okay to continue going on with more specificity?
Yes. Yes.
That word, I can't.
Yes.
Specificity.
Yes. Right? So, yes. So what you're doing here is you're using, we're using reason in the way that it was intended to be used. Right? So typically the way that we use reason, there's reason in the sense that, hey, 1 + 1 is 2, or there's a formula in physics equals mc squared, right? So that's a degree of reason. What we're doing here is we're using a higher order of reason to know the truth about her wellness. Okay? And yes, you want to build on this, because the idea is you're building this feeling, this sensation, this knowingness of that truth. Okay? Thanksgiving. What do you want to say?
I'm thankful for this body I have that works.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. And then release.
And I let this go.
Yes. I let it go. I let it go. Okay? God is all there is. I'm one with God. I know my life is whole, perfect, and complete. And you can continue with that. I know that every cell in my body is moving and working perfectly. Life is emerging in each one of them. My strength is beyond anything that I can imagine. Right? So you can continue to build with that. And because I know this is the truth, I am filled with gratitude. Thank you, because this is so. And I release this. Knowing that everything that my word goes out to do, it's done.
And so it is.
And so it is. Exactly. It is spoken, so it shall be done. And here's the beautiful part about this. Because this is not a Santa God prayer, and you understand the law, there you have it. Okay?
Seems kind of paradoxical to release it, but also release the expectation as well. Because whatever I'm praying for might come about in a way I might not imagine.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what I love to say is, because it's very important, your words are very important, this or something better.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's
This or something better.
yeah.
Highest good of all.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So when this becomes your thought, and I like to call it the second thought, because we'll have a thought about a thing. My diagram is gone, but we'll make a judgment about form. That's your first thought. Let this prayer be your second thought. Right? And so each day, you're looking at that second thought. And you're constantly aligning those thoughts with the truth, with wholeness, perfect, completeness, oneness, unity, perfection. Right?
So wait a minute, that prayer is the second thought?
So what I'm saying is, a lot of times through life, we might see something in form, and we might think something about it that is not in alignment with truth, that comes from the mass mind. Right? We look at the present and we say he is blah. Right? That's the first thought. No. Everything operates with perfect order. This is my second thought.
Oh, I
You see?
like learning how to flip it.
Because it could be your first thought.
Right? That could be your first thought. And the more and more,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So the more and more you master this, that becomes your first thought. So yeah. Okay. So this is what it means to pray without ceasing. To know wholeness, perfection, life, truth in every moment.